Are we live? Let me just check. Oh, yeah, we are live. Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for joining in to this new webinar, once again, where we would be discussing platform engineering. For those of you who don't know, I am Atul and I work as a senior developer advocate at InfraCloud, where I do all things related to code, content, and community. I'm also a CNCF ambassador and conduct various cloud native meetups here in my city in Hyderabad. I've just come back from a trip from Bangalore attending an insightful community meetup. While I would want to talk about it here, unfortunately, I cannot. So if you want to know more about what happened at the meetup, do hit me up on LinkedIn. And talking about that, do let me know what do you do and where are you joining in from. Put that in the comments box, whether you are on LinkedIn or on StreamYard. Put in the comments so that I and all of us know where are you joining in from. So today we would be discussing about developer productivity. And trust me, this one is going to be exciting and insightful. But some of you would be like, hey, didn't you just say even that in the previous webinar, that even that would be insightful? But guess what? Wasn't that insightful? Talking about the previous webinars, if you have missed any of our previous webinars, you can watch them by scanning this QR code, which will take you to our YouTube page where you can go through all the previous shows and episodes that we have done and learn more about platform engineering. Moving on, like I always have, I'm not alone here today, and I have two wonderful guests with me. And before I invite them, that's the exciting part I love about doing these webinars. Every couple of weeks, I get to go live, interact with new and amazing people, and also, discuss some insightful things. So today I'm joined by two wonderful people. I have Dhruv from Middleware, and I have Vishal from InfraCloud. Hi, Dhruv and Vishal. Thank you so much for joining in.
Hey, Atul, thank you. Thank you so much for having me and excited to share the stage with Vishal and you.
Great. Thank you for yes, thank you for giving time and joining in here. So, Dhruv, what we do here as a tradition is that I ask my guests to introduce themselves to the audience. So, I would like you to introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us who you are, what you do, where are you from, and one thing that you like doing outside of work.
Well, those are too many questions, but I'll let me try to do justice to all of them. Hi, my name is Dhruv Agarwal. I am co-founder and CEO of Middleware. We help engineering teams reduce their time to market. In very simpler terms, we help engineering teams become efficient by helping them remove their process bottlenecks and anything that stops builders from building. And Atul, you might have to help me in the middle if I miss any of your stream of questions. I'm from Delhi, and I stay in Delhi for most part of the year, apart from the usual work travel. And I really love working. I think that goes without saying. If I have to step out of my cushy job and start a company, outside of work, I like to cook. I like to just roam around. It's a very Delhi thing to just aimlessly wander around the city and go out to places to eat. So I think, yeah.
Interesting, quite a varied interest. And I think maybe next time when we meet, we should not do a webinar, but we both should cook together because I enjoy cooking
and
too.
and then go on a drive through, put a dash cam and drive through the city.
Absolutely. So, guys, if you are tuned in, make sure that you join us in our vlog that probably comes out some other day around Delhi and the food in Delhi.
Yeah.
Great. So, moving on to the familiar face. Along with me, I have Vishal. So, Vishal, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Cool, cool. Thanks for pushing your plan of cooking together out after the webinar. So, I'm Vishal, founder and CTO at InfraCloud Technologies, largely focused on cloud native technologies around Kubernetes the last 80 years. Been contributing to a couple of open source projects and excited to be here with Dhruv. And yeah, beyond work, I end up doing a little bit of mountains, reading movies, as you can guess from background. But yeah, looking forward to this.
Interesting. So, all of you, you saw that we have people with various different backgrounds, different interests, and different places. So once again, a reminder, do let us know where you are joining in from and what do you do. So we don't only have a diverse panel, but we also have a diverse audience. Keeping that aside, let us move ahead in today's discussion. Some housekeeping stuff before we get started. So we would be taking questions from all of you. So at any point you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below, and we would be taking up with our guest during the stream or at the end of the session. Now, uh, if you have seen all our previous webinars, I talk a lot about platform engineering. And one thing that I've done in every webinar is that I have given a different analogy of platform engineering in each of them. So today I would be doing a small recap for all of you around all the analogies that I have given. And then we will check with Dhruv and Vishal on their 2 cents around platform engineering. So since Dhruv is a cook and I love cooking, so one of my favorites analogy of platform engineering was around a kitchen, comparing it to a platform. So just like a kitchen has all the utensils, all the things, ingredients, vegetables, etc. required, a platform also has things similar. So you have your tools in place, you have your CI/CD pipelines, you have observability tools. All of these things are placed in one platform where chefs or our developers follow the recipes or follow the documentation and push out a place of butter chicken or a great application out in the market. So kitchen is one analogy which fits perfectly well with platform engineering. I did speak about it as a concert as well. So just like in a concert, you have different teams, one dealing with the lights, one dealing with the sound, other taking care of security. And all of this helps the performer dish out excellent music. And that's exactly what it is when it comes to software development as well. You have a lot of different teams, a lot of different toolings, and your developers dishing out the features. So these were two of my favorite analogies that I have given previously. And if you have any other analogy in mind, do share it with us. So before I move on, Dhruv and Vishal, over to you for your 2 cents around platform engineering and how would you explain it to someone? Dhruv, would you like to go first?
Oh well, I think you pretty much summed it quite well in the simpler words, and I think I don't need to explain it. But one thing for sure, I believe that now, as we know that nothing can be built in like without the use of technology, without the use of any software, it's very essential to give enough importance to platform engineering so that your builders are not blocked. And I often share this instance that when I was a kid, I loved building. When I was in college, I loved hacking through the nights and going through to hackathons. And then along with me, a lot of my friends also thought that because we are all good in programming, we'll build something of real importance and go to the bigger companies to build it. And the moment you go to the bigger companies, you get stuck on every step, right? The environment needs to be sanctioned by someone else, and there's a whole choreography to get a basic website up or a basic app up, and that starts with just demotivating those developers, and then people start doing other things, and suddenly like they are travelers and they are musicians and everything comes out, which is a great thing on the side. But I think platform engineering is very important to let your builders be as happy as they were while in their college days or school days. Yeah.
Interesting. That's another analogy which I can definitely use. Keep your builders happy. I'm taking that away. Vishal, anything you would want to add to this mix?
I would only say keep your builders moving beyond happy. But yeah, everything else I think you was already
Yeah.
covered.
Great. So keep your builders moving and ensure that they are happy. So with that, let us move into the next part of this, which is basically building your platforms. Now, I'm sure if you have joined in for the series of our webinars, you know about this slide, you know what I talk also. But then just to give you a brief. Uh, Everyone wants to build a platform, but then a lot of teams don't have an idea on where to start and what is required. And that is where what we have done is we have put together all our learnings, all our customer discussions, all our community interactions, all of it into this one platform engineering reference architecture ebook. So on this book, what you will see is a lot of blueprints, which will help you decide how do you chart your platform journey. We have also listed a lot of tools that you can use while building your platforms, and a lot of other things which I can not talk in this webinar because it will take me hours and hours to talk about them. So if you want to know more, all you have to do is just scan the QR code that is present on the screen to get this copy and start building your platform. One of the things that we have discussed in this book is the reference capability map. And I've again spoken about this on various platforms on various occasions. And what this slide essentially says is that every platform should have capabilities which are around these things. So these are the services that your platform should offer. And it could include everything from service template to workload specifications to registries to CDNs, governance, and policies. So only when you have these capabilities present, only then are your developers going to be happy and your developers would be moving. So again, to sum it up, do check out this ebook. I'm sure you will find it helpful. Now, moving on to the actual discussion, I was actually going through the blog which was written by Dhruv some time back, and he had mentioned his journey about working at different sizes of organizations and doing different work. And one of the things he mentioned about there was the visibility. Because managers don't get visibility into what's happening, they will ask you to create tons of spreadsheets, tons of meetings, and everyone would be just busy doing that and not building actual stuff. Now, developer productivity is something which is synonymous with platforms. Platforms do help with product developer productivity. But then, what I want to do understand now is what are the different challenges when it comes to developer productivity, and coming from the blog that Dhruv you wrote, how can organizations actually identify this challenge? So, yeah, I mean, please help us with in continuation to what you wrote on your blog already.
Yeah, of course. See, developer productivity. First of all, I mean, this can be a longer answer. So, developer productivity first is the definition. How do you say what is developer productivity? Some people consider developers like machines. Some people consider them like a sales team, where they start optimizing for their output. And they think the more the output, story points, PR, line of code, hours put, the more productive the developers are, right? But that is not true for the development teams or the engineering teams, because the engineering output has nothing to do with business outcome, right? The engineering teams only control their iteration speed, and the business is dependent on what idea you have. And I mean, just as an analogy, right? Everyone says that so many startups have a failure rate, right? So that would mean that striking the right business and getting successful in business is dependent on a lot of things. But as far as development or engineering is concerned, their output is not directly related to outcomes of business. So how do we measure developer productivity? Developer productivity is that if a developer wants to do like their plan, so they want to do like n tasks in a day, then they are able to execute those by the end of the day or the week or the sprint, right? And that's what developer productivity is, in my opinion. That if I can plan, commit to something, and I can achieve that, then I am productive. And now comes to the challenges, right? So there are a lot of challenges that come to developer productivity. And since we are already talking about platform engineering, of course, a platform level challenge, for example, if you take a day to spin up a new environment to test, that would delay all your processes. If you have a long deployment, for example, if your deployment takes 30 minutes to 1 hour to deploy, then your developers will time their lunch around the deployment, and your number of deployments will be lesser, which also means that if a customer is suffering, then the customer also has to wait for those many hours. So that those are the preliminary challenges which are dependent on the platform. But outside of platform as well, there's a lot of jitter in the organizations. For example, your platform is set, your team is set, everything is on point, but now a certain PM comes and says that, hey, this is coming from the CEO and this is high priority for business and I want you to execute this. And now you have more PMs, and so more tasks will come in, and that will just derail all the planned stuff you had, give more burnout to your team. Now, to add to all this chaos, all this mess, a lot of managers are just like made managers from an engineer, right? So they had no training of how to manage people, project, process. So, and suddenly they are expected to deliver like a manager, like a boss, delivering everything, and they are confused. They are just from one meeting to another, unable to attribute their contribution to anywhere, whether it is strategic or technical. So now they are just going from one meeting to another, micromanaging and making sure the lights are on, but the guy on top who can take some action has no visibility, right? So which leaves all the three layers that you have just confused and paranoid that, okay, I want to work, but there's a lot of chaos, so I'm unable to get my things done. The manager thinks that I'm just running from one meeting to another, I do not know what to do, and the top guy is saying that, I don't understand, we have hired like hundreds of people, and I don't know what's wrong, so let me just go to every stand up and understand what's wrong and leave whatever strategic decisions I had to make. So I think the developer productivity, however, it starts from like the basic things that the PR review took longer or the deployment takes longer. It cascades into the larger effects, making the whole organization suffer. So yeah, I mean, I went from a very simple platform idea to the level of CTO not being able to focus on the strategy, but that's what happens into my into the worldview of developer productivity. And by the way, this is across the globe. I mean, I'm sure
Right.
that there are a lot of people watching us. We as Indians might think that it's happening here, but don't worry, it's just happening across the world. So in all our Western counterparts as well. So yeah, those will be my couple of cents to it, Atul.
Interesting. I think it was the developer Dhruv talking and not the CEO Dhruv who actually took over after developer Dhruv was done.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely. I think being there in a developer's shoes, you actually know what the challenges are, especially when it comes to ad hoc tasks that are coming in. Uh, Vishal, I would like to extend. I mean, probably check with you on the second part of this question, which was around how can organizations identify these challenges on whether how they exist and how they can basically just track all these things.
Sure. I think we have parallels from manufacturing industry and other places, sort of, right? Like, can we define the flow state when it comes to development, and can we define the stability state, when it comes to running systems, in production kind of state, basically, right? And obviously, the challenge is what are the right metrics, what are the right things to look at, because you could be looking at wrong things and feeling good, but you might as well be doing or moving in the wrong direction, basically, right? So I would say figuring out what things to look at in the flow, and then beyond production in the stability state is probably one key thing. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to flow, I think things moving fast enough is the key metric, and when it comes to production, things being stable is the key metric. I think if you have some ways to measure this, that probably is a good first point. Yeah, and then you can put various guardrails at various stages in the development life cycle, basically.
Interesting. So I think in every webinar Vishal does say something that it just lingers even after the webinar. And right now it was you look at the wrong thing and you stay happy, and I think that's really important that you identify things that you want to track and not just track anything and everything and be happy about it. And I think when it comes to collecting, obviously there are a lot of ways. You can either have a person sit out there and track the metrics in terms of how much time with a stopwatch tracking how much time a build is taking, or obviously you have more modern automated ways coming to it. So having discussed the challenges, as well as touched upon how to collect these metrics, Dhruv, since you come from this background, where you have seen the entire spectrum, uh, how would you want to explain to us what are the specific metrics that you find valuable, for improving the developer productivity? Uh, and secondly, when we talk about developer productivity, we cannot leave out DORA, the open source metrics that we have, and which is quite popular and relatable. So yeah, how do these metrics actually relate to DORA as well?
Of course. So first of all, we have to, I mean, like Vishal said, right? You can look at the wrong thing and stay happy. Metrics, if you see, are like, medicines for the problems you might be facing in the organization. Any organization which is working all fine and all well, everything is flowing, nobody would require any metrics, essentially, right? Everyone would be just happy building something. Certainly, that's not the case with most of the fast-moving organizations. So they require metrics. So you don't have to see all the metrics at once. You first have to see the context. What symptoms are you facing? Are you facing that your team is like working too hard and nothing is coming out? You are facing that we release too much and the customers are always complaining. So based on that, you pick sort of your metrics. Now, to help out, there are a couple of frameworks which can let you get started. My favorite one is, of course, the DORA metrics framework, which is, of course, backed by a lot of research, comes from Google, and brings out a very fine, simple key metrics, which ensure your delivery efficiency for a team. And as Vishal said in his old answer as well, that speed is the name of the game, and when it comes to production, you also require stability, and that's the exact premise that DORA brings out, that you balance throughput and stability using the 4 key metrics like lead time for changes, um, deployment frequency, change failure rate, and mean time to recovery, which essentially means that how soon are you able to land your feature into production, and how soon can you stabilize it, right? The other framework which I also like is that not all the problems are in your delivery pipeline. You might be having the soft skills issue, which you can solve with flow framework. So you can have a lot of ad hoc coming in, which is derailing your planned work, or you might have estimation adherence issues where people might say that, okay, this in their head is a ballpark 2-day work, but when they get to it, they take like 6 days, 7 days. So as a manager, it's very important to choose the right metrics. So I can suggest that you make a tabular form what symptoms you're having. If you think that your symptoms are relating to delivery, then go for DORA. If you think your symptoms are that your team is working very hard and they're delivering as well, but still you're having problem, then flow framework might be of a lot of use as well. Yeah.
Interesting insights there. I've heard about DORA everywhere. In fact, I did a talk somewhere where I spoke about how to convince your boss to invest in platforms, and that's where we highlighted DORA, that because they obviously track metrics, but flow metrics is something that I wasn't aware of. So definitely, after the webinar, I'll probably go and give that a read as well. So everyone who is joined in, do let us know if if you already knew about flow or DORA, and if you have any further questions or anything to share, do put it in the comments below
There's a
as
book
well.
also. There's a book called
Okay.
Project to Product, I guess by Mike Kirkston, uh, the author, and it's a very good read about flow framework.
Interesting. So from project to product is the book if you want to learn more about the flow framework, to be specific. So now, Dhruv, we already discussed about DORA and all the other or the metrics that it actually has. You talk about the lead times, you talk about the cycle times, the change failure rates, which are quite common in DORA. Now, when it comes to improving these metrics, there are a lot of things that needs to be done, in terms of the process side, in terms of technology side, to get this back on track. So how do you think platform engineering will help address these issues?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And when it comes to platform engineering, certainly there are a lot of nuances. And when DORA is talking about, where is your team getting stuck while reviewing a PR or deployments, handling failures and recovering the system, there are like some clear answers. For example, if your team is slow because the deployment time is too high. For example, it happened in one of our teams that our deployment time was like slowly raging towards 30 minutes, and my team started timing it around lunch. So at 2 p.m. everything went live for us, but before that and after that it was a rare occasion. And once I was just sitting, and one of my colleague said that, okay, I said that, why don't you deploy it? And he said that, I'll deploy it around 2 p.m. And why is that case? So that's when it struck me that, oh, my team is just delaying the deployment, and they're also suffering because their change is not going there. So that night itself I rewrote our deployer so that the deployments happen in 2 minutes, and then our deployment became on demand. So our team now could work anytime, and that developer lost the chance to have lunches or long lunches anymore. So I think those are the instances where platform engineering builds a very foundational layer in your team, and DORA can serve as a feedback loop for the team, right? To improve your processes. I would love to know what Vishal has in mind on this topic.
Sure, I second that. So +1 to that. Vishal, over to you.
Uh, so I think the whole book around raw metrics by Jay Zimmer and stuff, right? I think it kind of classifies the whole thing into two simple things. On the development side, how do you make sure you move things fast? And on the production side, how can you recover fast from failure and keep it up and running, sort of, right? And I think that's a great way to look at it. And I think that probably was the simplest way I could figure out that you can measure speed, right? Anything more complicated than that, and we have seen obviously a lot of abuses in terms of lines of code being the metric, or whatever, like number of PRs being the metric and stuff like that, right? But I think as an industry, we need to arrive or we have arrived, but we need to standardize on these couple of things, and that should be the way to measure. And I think to the previous point also, we should have a way to measure before platform engineering implementation versus post platform engineering implementation, how the metrics help people move faster, organizations move faster, basically.
Absolutely. I think, you actually pointed out a very good thing, Vishal. And in fact, that is a point of discussion even in our, in the platform working group as part of the CNCF, where we discuss a lot around how do you actually track the success or failure of your platform. So, like you said, the pre-platform and the post-platform. And I think that is where, one of the assessment tools is what the team is working on right now as I speak, and that will actually help gauge how your platform has been there. So yeah, I think platform does a lot of things. If I want to tie it back to the reference capability map that I mentioned earlier, things like that would actually help keep some of your metrics, or keep your key metrics under check as well. So things like, if you have a proper CI/CD pipeline in place, you have automated your entire flow, then your lead time would actually reduce because now everything is automated. And then you can imbibe a lot of self-service features into your platform, which actually will again further reduce, because now you don't have a central team where your developers has to reach out and say, hey, provision this for me, provision that for me. It's all in a self-service way. So I think to sum up the entire discussion, in all our previous webinars, like I said earlier, we scratched the surface of developer productivity because, like I said, it's synonymous with platform engineering. That's the biggest benefit of platforms. But today we dug a little deep into it. We spoke about the challenges that comes with measuring these matrices. How you first identify them and how do you measure. We spoke about different frameworks. The flow framework is something that I learned today. And I'm sure you all should also go and read. And lastly, we discussed about how platform actually helps us improve the various metrics that we have identified. So moving on to the meat of today's discussion, we would be talking about middleware, which is an open source platform. I'm not qualified to be speaking a lot about it because I have Dhruv over here who is much more qualified to talk about that. So over the next 10-15 minutes, we'll have Dhruv talking about middleware, and he will tell us how that as a platform can help improve the various productivity matrices. So Dhruv, over to you.
Well, thanks, Atul. I think I decided to surprise the audience with not just the open source version. I thought that since we were also talking about, flow framework and DORA metrics, I thought why don't we talk about bringing change overall and see how DORA becomes relevant for a certain type of change. And that's what we'll talk about. And like I'll show the full product as well. While our core is open source, which is the DORA metrics, I would love to show how the whole product helps engineering teams in general. Yeah. So I would like to start not just by saying that how metrics are important or how people should track metrics. I would like to step back and inculcate this thought that metrics are just your kind of your co-pilot or Robin to your Batman to guide you to the right way. But the main thing that you're doing as a leader, especially, is driving change. Is driving change from state A to state B, where state B is usually better, efficient, faster, and more stable, right? But it's a journey, and let's say you are a CTO or a director or a VP of engineering, or even a senior manager, and you're managing multiple small teams. Then you can't go to every team and ask, what's happening, where are you stuck? People will rarely tell you, or you'll have, you'll have a great time from one meeting to another, uh, while you'll not be able to do your own work. So what we did with middleware was we developed a screen for like a dashboard for the senior leaders called cockpit, where they do not have to go to like every other meeting and to understand where their attention is required. So we track their core KPIs on just on top, showing them how much progress they have made. I'll come back to this after we have done a full walkthrough of the product. We also tell them a quick summary because it's the Instagram era. So we do a 30-second kind of reel summary for your team. Then you can keep diving deeper for the whole team to understand how's the flow of work looking like, right? We spoke about the flow framework, and that's where we take this view that how much of our work is coming as planned, how much of it came as spillage, how much of it came as ad hoc. Now, a key thing about ad hoc is that if you had planned to your complete capacity and ad hoc comes in, you are bound to prioritize at that moment on what you want to spill, because ad hoc comes with the business pressure. Planned works usually get spilled over, and that's what you do not want, right? So now you can, at one glance, you can say that, okay, if my team is spilling so much and certainly my predictability is low, then that's where my attention is required. And is there any outlier team where where I should go and spend time to educate, to mentor the manager as well? And then you also have some quality signals and so many metrics, right? But all these metrics are only relevant to a certain stage, and that's why we allow you to have a look at everything, but we at the same time we allow you to track it, right? Track whatever is important to you. So let's take an example quickly and see that, okay, one of my team is suffering from predictable deliveries. So let's go inside and see what's happening. So as we were talking about the project flow, I see that, okay, the ad hoc has been slightly increasing over time, which means that I need to talk about, the prioritization of work and how are we planning to do so much if the ad hoc is going to increase forever, right? As a manager, I used to, just go to the PMs and say that this sprint, I'm not planning anything because you're just going to give me more tasks. And then the spillage might be happening because the ad hoc increased, or it might be because of your team not estimating properly, right? And it might not be the team's mistake all the time, I would say. There might be some hidden challenges, and that's where middleware comes in handy. So let's take one story point is one day. So the smaller complexity work gets delivered in the ballpark timeline, but as you go with larger complexity of work, you see that the usual work is spilled, and that has been a trend that has been worsening over time. So as a manager, what would I do, right? One is I can go with every developer and say that, hey, you took longer, what are the challenges, how can I help you, so that the next time you're not blocked or surprised with the new friction points that come into your way, and estimate well. Or we offer you to get deeper into the pipeline, and that's where we say that if your delivery is having a problem, then that's where DORA comes in, right? One thing to note here, that this view or the DORA metrics overall is open source and available, and we'll just provide you the QR code at the end for the audience to check it out. So now when we talk about DORA metrics, there are three things to note here. So DORA as a framework talks about getting better, like get better at getting better, which means that for a single team, if you keep measuring these four keys, which is lead time for changes, is how easily you're able to deliver your change. So from your commit to your deploy time and your PR time, right? And from your deployment frequency, this means that how easily are you able to deploy your changes uh, to your production. If you take like 3 months or 6 months, that's horrible. If you take like you do multiple deployments per day, that just means it's on demand. Then it talks about change failure rate and mean time to recovery, is that whatsoever times you deploy, how many times do you fail, and if you fail, how soon can you recover. Now I spoke about the three takeaways from the screen. One is you get your DORA metrics. Second is you get the benchmarked values and the labels based on the research that Google does every year. So now you can understand where your team lies in the whole global horizon, and are you fast enough or are you stable enough? And our product automatically update these benchmarks as the new reports come and give a score so that you can measure, because people get excited with those scores. And the third thing that you see is the trend. Are you improving with time or not? Right? So there are companies, for example, there's an Indonesian insurtech company who for a quarter just focused on their quality metrics. They did not have a speed issue, they just focused on the quality metrics, and for a single team they were just focused on reducing those. So they made their change failure rate fall from 17% to 2%, and their mean time to recovery from 4 hours to 20 minutes. And now that results in volumes with customer satisfaction, right? So how the small changes of making your quality changes, and as you were saying about platform engineering, right? If you are able to if you're able to spin up a new environment where people can test easily, then you can increase your quality of the product. Or if you can make the deployments easy, then reverts become super fast, right? So these things help you in achieving your business metrics. But now what happens usually is that people start measuring these key metrics, but a lot of managers, as we spoke, do not know what to do and how to take an action. So for that, what we have done is we have built an action assistance flow. So let's take an example that we were spilling through our sprints, right? And what could be the reason? So if I come down and see how my PRs are getting delayed, so we call that cycle time, and I see that, oh, there's a large delay in someone just picking up my PRs for review, which is the 1.5 days delay just waiting. Why would that be? Is there a long tail which surprises me every time? So I can look at the patterns that that increase my time to picking up a PR for review? Or is it a particular developer or some developers who are, let's say, new to the team and do not know the code standards or code compliance and are struggling, so I can just help them out by maybe documenting, training, and reduce those metrics. But my favorite part in our tool is, how is my team dependent on each other? Who becomes the bottleneck? Usually the senior developers become the bottlenecks, and everyone knows about it, but nobody is able to quantify it, and hence it never changes. Sometimes the bottlenecks, if you see the translucent bubble, are also outside of your immediate team, right? For whom the managers are not controlling the workload or the leaves. So it's a ticking time bomb. But let's say I found Jayant, who's also my co-founder, as the bottleneck in our team. What does that mean? So we help you in analyzing how can you unblock this person or the people blocked on this bottleneck, right? Usually the bottlenecks are also stretched a lot in the meetings. So we connect with Google Calendar to show how many scheduled meetings is this person indulged into, preventing them to do their own work. Meetings are also work, but if it like shoots up too much, then they won't be able to do anything, right? And the other thing that we show is how much PR activity exposure they have. So, for example, this person is just reviewing through the week. So, have I lost my developers? Have I lost a developer in him and he's now just a reviewer? Let's take the flip side. If Jayant was working on his stuff, then my team would be waiting for a review from him, which, let's say in this case, is 3 days delay. 3 days, Atul, is half a week, right? So if my developers are waiting half a week, then I've lost 50% productivity for the people dependent on Jayant. Now, as a manager, I can, of course, look at some patterns to improve this, or I can see who else is an expert in the same code bases as Jayant, and then spawn them as a reviewer. If there are no other experts, then I would like to break the context isolation, etc., to have more reviewers. And once I have more reviewers to share the load with Jayant, I can see my cycle time going down, my DORA metrics improving, my estimation adherence improving, my spillage reducing, and my team meeting the KPIs for efficiency, right? And that's how you just bubble up the smaller changes into the business metrics. And that's why I took a longer while to answer your question on what metrics should we track, right? The part where I showed the DORA metrics is, of course, open source, free. You can run it on your own machine and give it a shot today itself. Why don't you show the next slide, and so that people can capture the QR code. And I would like to just request the audience that give it a shot today. And our team has worked very hard to launch this. It would mean the world to us if you give us a star, give your feedback, join the community. Yeah, everything detail you will find on the repository, and I hope you're able to scan the QR code. Couple of you can just scan it and give us confirmation from the comments. Perfect.
Yeah, the QR code works. So yeah, Dhruv, thank you so much for this insightful demo and the amazing product. While I have seen the screenshots earlier, this is the first time I actually saw it in action. And frankly, the graph where you showed how much time a person is spending on which task, where you highlighted their PR activity. I could relate it to the numerous tasks that I do. Some days I'm writing, some days I'm coding, some days I'm doing webinars, and then eventually, if I have something of that sort, I would know easily where I am spending my time on. But two things that I would like to really point out over here, bringing in a leaf from my business school. The first one was definitely around basically we say that there's a famous saying which is you are what you measure. So until unless you don't measure the right things, until unless you don't know what to measure, you'll not go anywhere. And I think this it does exactly that, integrating a lot of things right from the open source version where you can integrate your repo and get the DORA metrics in place, to advanced level settings where it integrates with Google APIs, calendar, and then gets me how much time a person is blocked in meetings. And also, secondly, the famous Pareto, principle. You just do the 20% of the thing, and it will just affect the entire 80% of the things, that is happening. So those were the two lessons that I had, and I do see a couple of interesting questions that have come up, and I don't know what's special today, but a lot of questions are already being answered by someone in the comments. So I think a shout out to Jayant, who is there in the comments, who has been patiently going through the comments and actually responding.
Yeah.
And one interesting question that I would want to bring up over here, along with Vishal also, who comes back on the screen. For some technical reason, I couldn't get that comment from LinkedIn over here, but then I would be posting it on my own, and I'll get it onto the screen. Yeah. So this question was asked by Sridhar on LinkedIn, and he basically has a scenario, if I could say. And the scenario basically here is I have two developers. One is an experienced, and other one is a junior. The senior wrote the code in 2 lines, but the junior took about 10 lines to code that feature. Now, how will DORA help in tracking the productivity of developers automatically based on the feature complexity? So,
Yeah, it's a
Dhruv, would you
great
want to
question.
take that? Yeah.
It's a great question. I will answer it, but since we haven't heard from Vishal for so long, I want him to take a point at it first, and then I'll add my 2 cents.
So I don't think DORA is meant to be the solution for every problem. So it doesn't address this problem for sure. This is purely a skill or expertise problem of engineers and of engineering team, right? And there are different ways to solve that. Whether it is training, coaching, education, and definitely not going to happen overnight. So I don't think DORA is the right tool to solve this problem.
Absolutely. DORA is a process excellence tool. It's not about who in your team is productive. It talks about whether your processes are not hindering your team's productivity or not.
Yep, I think I'm not an expert at this, but then my 0.5 cent on this would be you actually go ahead as a team. You want to know whether your team is stuck somewhere, or it is providing the features, rather than pinpointing on someone that, hey, it's you, because of whom this is happening. So thanks, Sridhar, for that insightful questions. I hope that answers your question. We'll take one small question coming in from again, LinkedIn. It says very cool stuff. Where do you pull your input data from? Whether it comes from Jira, whether it comes from Git. Dhruv, this is targeted to you,
Yeah,
I
of
guess.
course. Of course. Like first of all, I would like to also thank Jayant, who's my co-founder, who also answered this in the comment. So yes, we pull. Thank you so much. I can't see your name, but thank you so much for appreciating our product. Yes, we pull data from Jira. We pull data from Git. We also pull data from your deployer, incident management tool, goal calendar. But the beautiful part is that even if you have like one of these, we you can start leveraging insights. For example, if you just have Git and you are not using Jira, or you do not want to connect to Jira, we can still see how you can unblock your team, and who's the bottleneck in your team, and how you can improve your PR process. If you So it's like, as many sources you have, the richer it gets. uh, yeah. So the flow framework is powered by Jira Insights, especially the Sprint Insights. The DORA metrics is of course powered by Git deployer, and incident management stuff.
Great. I think you have answered it perfectly well. Basically, the more the sources you have, the more insightful, data that you get. And I quickly went through all the questions. So I think we are pretty much done with the questions, and we are at the top of the hour as well. So it was an insightful discussion. I'm sure I spoke about it at the start of the webinar, and I'm sure a lot of you would agree on that as well. So before I actually close, a quick closing comments from both Vishal and Dhruv here. So Vishal, some thoughts from you on developer productivity and platform engineering.
Okay, that's a pretty open-ended question or
Yes.
comment. I would say measuring the right things is equally important for success of platform engineering. And there are things which you can measure with numbers, and there are things you can't measure with numbers and only can measure qualitatively. For example, the previous example of 2 lines versus 10 lines of code, right? I think there is a qualitative nature to the quality of engineering skills and expertise you have, so to speak, right? Yeah, I think it's crucial to keep that difference in mind: what to measure with numbers and what not to measure with numbers, I would say.
Great. Dhruv, what about you?
Yeah, that is
How would
spot
you
on.
comment?
I mean, first of all, I wish that we could chat more. I did not realize when the hour went away. I would my 2 cents would be that metrics are just signals to help you keep moving, whether you are as a leader or the builder. It helps you move in the right direction. But the more important thing, if you are a leader, is to drive change in the right direction, is to keep improving. And the more important thing for the builder is to keep building, keep moving, as Vishal was saying, and keep moving happily is what I would add to it.
Great. And if I have to sum up everything, I would say the developers lived happily ever after. I think once you have a platform in place, they are happy and they're moving. I think it's a great story for everyone. So once again, thanks to Dhruv, thanks Vishal for joining in and sharing your time and wonderful insights on developer productivity. Uh, Also, a huge shout out and thanks to all the people who have joined in from different parts of the world for this webinar. Thank you so much. And once again, you can go ahead and get your ebooks by scanning the QR code. You can follow InfraCloud on LinkedIn, Twitter, and all the other social media platforms so that you are the first person to be informed when we are coming up with our next webinar. So once again, thank you so much. And I'm eagerly looking forward to seeing you all in the next episode that should be out soon. So have a good day. Signing off. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.